Hi, my name is Henry Williams, and our group is focusing on peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy comes with symptoms such as burning pain, tingling, and numbness, and can drastically affect a person's everyday life. The problem is ongoing and has persisted for decades, and is becoming more prominent as chronic diseases such as diabetes and cancer are becoming more widespread. It can develop gradually or suddenly depending on the underlying cause, and often persists for years or even a lifetime. Despite any advances in the related medical fields, progress in treating it has remained relatively stagnant. But we are looking to fix this. To identify a problem, there always needs to be a way to justify it if a group such as ours wants to solve it. So after some research, we have found that patients, healthcare providers, and public health officials all recognize peripheral neuropathy as a major and growing concern. Medical research bodies, including the National Institutes of Health and the American Chronic Pain Association, have identified it as a condition with unmet medical needs. Peripheral neuropathy affects individuals globally, but is particularly prevalent in countries with aging populations and high rates of diabetes, such as the United States, India, and parts of Europe. It occurs across various healthcare settings, from primary care clinics to specialist pain and neurology centers. The burden is also felt in patients' homes where everyday function is limited by ongoing symptoms.
Hi, my name is Patrick Firehawk, and today I'll be telling you about some of the other options we looked at when we did our researching phase. We looked at ointments, creams, medication, as well as a TENS unit. All of these are a great solution to help the pain, but they all have some issues with it. The ointments and creams are hard to use when you're out on the go, and they're not always accessible for you to use. Like, you have to remember to bring it. It's not something you can easily do. The medication sometimes can build up a tolerance over time if you take medication a lot, so then you have to bump up the dosage, and that is not good for your liver. And then the TENS unit is super bulky, and it doesn't allow you to use it on the go, and really isn't that practical for the user.
During the design process of coming up with a possible solution for peripheral neuropathy, our group has made several sketches. My sketch was the idea of a wearable glove that the person can put over their hand. This glove will have a re-engineered TENS unit integrated into it. Using a compact power source, it can send electrical signals to a shock therapy patch. This patch will be an adhesive, allowing for there to be no interference between the hand and the glove. When symptoms of peripheral neuropathy may occur, the user will be able to send a signal to end the symptoms using a button located on the cuff of the glove. Our group's next proposed design is an arm sleeve. The arm sleeve would most likely be made out of spandex, which its elasticity would allow the user to adjust the arm sleeve wherever they see fit. An integrated TENS unit will be embedded in the sleeve, with metal wires connecting the shock therapy pads. There will be an activation switch which, once pressed, will send the electronic signals through the wires for an effective way for shock therapy. In contrast, the glove shown prior, now it will cover an entire limb, covering more surface area, which may relieve more pain for the user.
In my sketch, I chose a shoe. The reason I chose a shoe is because I thought the electronic components could go underneath in the bottom sole of the shoe, and then you could open it up to access the battery and all the electrical components if you need to. And then on top of the shoe, where the foot actually makes contact with the sole, I thought that's where the electrodes could go, so that you could be shocked easily, and you could have a button or something on the side of the shoe, so it's super slim and easy. However, there were some issues with this design, such as if you wanted to wear the shoe out in the rain, there could be some issues with the rain getting into the electrical component side, or the shoe not, like, the electrodes not being in the right place, that I didn't do enough research on where the electrodes should be placed, that could be an issue as well.
Hello, my name is Luke Frappier. I am a member of Sleepy Feet, and my main responsibility is with the design and construction of our prototype. Alright, my design for our prototype is this large sketch in the bottom left-hand corner. It's a sock that wraps around your foot and has a specialized TENS unit on top, which contains all the computer bits and the battery, and sits on top of your calf. Alright, the final design that our group ended up settling on is the sock concept that I designed. To elaborate a bit further, there's Velcro straps along the outside that secure the sock to your foot. And on the inside, there's pairs of electrodes, sensors, and a smooth plastic surface. The sensors detect the neural signals coming from your foot and then send that data over to the TENS unit on top of the sock. If the signals are regular, then the TENS unit will send electricity through the electrode pads, and then the user will, and that will relieve the user's pain. And then the smooth plastic surface is there to allow something for the pads to rest against to prevent any like gunk from building up when not in use. And then the pads are held in place through these little pockets that mostly cover the pad so that you can easily take them out and replace them when the pad wears down. Alright, this is our first prototype. All in all, pretty similar to the original design, but a few alterations had to be made after more research was done. First of all, there's only one pair of electrode pads, whereas the initial sketch called for two. While you can use two pairs of electrodes, it does only really has a marginal increase in the effectiveness of the pain relief, so we're just going to use one. Second of all, the smooth plastic that the pads rest on is at the bottom of the sock, but that was moved onto the back of the Velcro strips instead, so that you're not stepping on hard plastic all day. And then to keep the sock closed and the electrodes on the smooth plastic while not in use, the Velcro strips that tighten the sock down onto your foot have a secondary piece of Velcro on top that's used to lock the sock closed while not in use. And yeah. Was there anything else? If you're seeing this, cut everything after I just said yeah. And lastly, we have our testing. The testing mostly revolved around the electrode pads that we use in our design, because we know the TENS unit works. We tested it ourselves, in fact, and there's not really much that can be changed about the sock itself, besides maybe level of comfort or how well it, or how tightly you can wrap the sock around your foot. But the electrode pads are the main bottleneck for how well the nerve stimulation works, so we're testing those. More tests are planned, like how well the pads hold their conductivity over time, like as they're used. But our first test revolved around how well they hold up in the washing machine, because our wearable is designed to be able to be chucked in a washing machine after you're done using it, so that you can get the stink and daily grime out of the wearable. Before I tossed the pads in the wash, they were absolutely pristine. I haven't even taken them off the plastic yet, and they were perfectly sticky. After just 2 wash cycles, they went from like pretty strong grip to holding on for dear life onto the plastic while I was taking a photo. Um, and you can kind of see it in the picture, but there's like a lot of holes in the gel, which is not ideal for the pad's conductivity. So, unfortunately, you can't just chuck the pads in the wash like we were hoping, but that is something that we learned from testing.